hope all of you brought your third eye along today because we're going to be talking about bearded dragons. What's going on? First things first, I wanted to tell you guys that bearded dragons are my favorite reptile in the world, and the reason being is because they're a lot like the dogs of the mammal family, right? If that even makes sense. Andy knows what I'm saying. Reptiles are not easy pets in general. They do have a lot of high maintenance needs that most people aren't aware of. All right, Andy's going down my back. Now that Andy's a little bit more comfortable, I wanted to get into talking about lighting. So bearded dragons originate in Australia, so they do need higher temperatures than what we have here in the East Coast or America in general. So bearded dragons need a heat lamp and also a UVB bulb. The reason for that is the heat lamp is going to provide them the heat that we do not have here in our homes, but also the UVB bulb is going to give their bones the calcium and nutrients that they need to grow, like what the natural sun would give them outside in Australia. The other thing is humidity in a bearded dragon's tank is very, very, very crucial. They do not need high temps of humidity, so your humidity range is going to be anywhere from 30 to 40. Anything over can actually cause bacterial infections, and we do not want our bearded dragons to be sick. You're probably wondering, well, what do these creatures eat? So bearded dragons are actually omnivores, which means they eat meat and they eat vegetables. So with that being said, I'll give you guys a couple of things that are really, really healthy for them on a day-to-day basis. When they are juveniles, which also means baby bearded dragons, they eat 80% bugs and then 20% vegetation. When they're older, about a year old and older, it actually is completely the opposite. So 20% bugs, 80% vegetation. You will notice if you did adopt or purchase a juvenile bearded dragon that they actually are pretty picky with their greens, so you're going to want to switch it up. Sometimes when I have juvenile bearded dragons, I will cut up small pieces of fruit to encourage them to eat that, or I will throw in some wax worms or super worms if they are large enough to eat the super worms on top of their vegetables. You guys see this, right? Crickets are a really good staple bug to feed bearded dragons because they do come in small and large sizes. So for juveniles, you want to feed them something that's small enough to where they will not choke. A good gauge to show you the size of bug or food in general your bearded dragon can eat is actually anything the size of in between their eyes. I'm not sure if the camera's going to focus, but just to show you, Andy can eat anything that's this big right here. So if for some reason you don't like crickets, they do die pretty quick and they're smelly. Dubia roaches are really, really great and they're higher in protein, but you do want to make sure that anything you're feeding to your bearded dragon, you're dusting with calcium powder. So I will show you guys what that looks like. So this here is Repticalcium, and we dust our greens and bugs with this every single time our dragon eats. This is essential in their diet because it does help maintain their bone health. So without this, you could have a bearded dragon end up with metabolic bone disease, and this goes hand in hand with that UVB light that I was telling you guys about. Another thing that I wanted to talk about before getting a bearded dragon is they do get pretty big, as you can see. Andy here is 21 inches long from his head to his tail, so he is a pretty big boy. Now the males can get a little bit bigger than the females, but when they're pretty tiny, it's hard to tell the gender anyways. But an adult dragon needs a tank no smaller than a 40-gallon breeder, and that's even cutting it close for a bearded dragon the size of Andy. Some people even go as extreme as a 75-gallon tank, which in my opinion is definitely a great tank for the rest of your dragon's life. It should never outgrow it. It should be happy, healthy, and be able to thrive. Now, in that tank, you also need something on the bottom. A lot of people think that bearded dragons or reptile lizards in general use sand because they believe that's where they are originated from. So with that being said, you need something at the bottom of their tank so they don't get cold. And also they do like to dig. So there's a big controversy on sand or calcium sand. So we're just gonna skip that for now. I'll do a video on substrates in the future, in the very near future. I would highly, highly recommend carpet or a sand mat. So the only thing is with carpet and sand mats is if you don't catch the pee or poop right away, it's not going to absorb very easily into that bedding because it's technically just a layer of something that you're putting down at the bottom. A lot of people for this reason like to use paper towels because just like birds, when reptiles poop, it also is pretty liquidy and it has a really funky smell. So you want to get that out of their tank as soon as possible. With Repticarpet like we use, I actually throw it in the washer about twice a week, because if not, it can actually create parasites that can end up living in their tank or in that carpet. And you don't want your bearded dragon to get parasites. It's very nasty, it makes them sick, and then you'll need to go to the vet, and why risk that when you know that you can either use carpet or the sand mat. With the sand mat, they just don't last as long as the carpet, but they are pretty cool because it's more like their natural habitat where they have a clay ground in Australia, but also their nails, instead of cutting them, it actually does kind of help sand them down. So it is another good option. I preferably do love that as well. You just have to replace it a little bit more often. As you can see, they're really good climbers. In their natural habitat, they actually climb up posts and trees to run away from predators or to watch over their area that they claim for dominance. So in their tanks, you guys want to have some type of log, perch, something where they can climb up onto that is a wood-like material so they can rest and get high up close to their heating lamp. The last two important things that I want to touch base on if you're looking to purchase a bearded dragon or if you're a new bearded dragon owner are that bearded dragons should be housed alone, and even in the natural habitat, the male bearded dragons will actually fight off the males for the females in this territory. Now, this does not mean that males and females can also be housed together, because in captivity, female bearded dragons will be harassed by the males for mating. So that's also not a good thing, which can lead to a fight or the male injuring the female or overbreeding, and we don't want that either. If you go to the pet store, you will notice that when you're purchasing a bearded dragon, a baby at that, you will see that there's multiple baby bearded dragons in one tank, and that is never okay. Baby bearded dragons actually can eat each other's limbs off because it looks like a bug moving or waving around. And they will do this arm wave to show that they are allowing the other bearded dragon to be the dominant one. You don't want your bearded dragon missing toes. Actually, our little Andy is, and when we adopted him we didn't know, but that just makes us love him even more. Look at his little toe missing, he's so cute. We love your little stuff. But that probably resulted from him being in a tank with another dragon. We'll never know because who we got him from, they only had him in a tank by himself and he was already this adult size. So we've covered diet, housing, lighting, making sure that your bearded dragon is in an environment by him or herself. But the last thing I wanted to touch on, which would be fact number 5, is they are exotic pets, which means when they get sick, it is very, very difficult to find a vet that knows what they're doing with these guys or that will actually even help these guys. I definitely would highly recommend yearly they have one fecal exam to make sure they do not have parasites, because crickets, dubias, any kind of bugs can carry these parasites. It's not the pet store's fault or the feeder store's fault. It really is just something that the bugs can get, and when the bearded dragons eat them, sadly they get those parasites also. So that is one thing you need to go to the vet for yearly. The other thing is, if they are ill and sick and it's an emergency, you want to know who you can go to just in case it is a life or death emergency. Does my hair look like a tree, you guys? Because Andy seems to want to climb in it. Andy, come on. Come on out. Come on. Come on. But they really do have personalities. When my boyfriend went out of town to Amsterdam, Andy actually got really depressed. He didn't really move around in his tank and he didn't really want to eat, and he wasn't sick. He was pretty upset that, you know, his father wasn't here to show him love and affection. They really, 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 really are amazing pets. I cannot stress that enough. With everything that I've told you, it really is a pretty general guide to taking care of a bearded dragon. I always encourage you to do the most research you can before adopting an animal, just so you can make sure you have the complete enclosure set up, the heating, the bugs that they're gonna need, just knowing their personalities in general. Like I said, bearded dragons are pretty laid back. Andy, I mean, he's climbed in my hair and on my shoulder, but he's not trying to bite. He really is just maintaining his amazing, beautiful bearded dragon self. Can you say bye to everyone? Say, I hope that if you get a bearded dragon, you take the best care of it possible, and one day we can make videos together. That would be awesome. So if you guys are a new bearded dragon parent, welcome to this amazing world. You guys will have your best friend for approximately 10 to 15 years. They do live really, really long. Reptiles in general, they will be a lifelong best friend for you. And I hope your little one loves to cuddle just as much as Andy. I hope all of you had a happy new year, and if you guys have any questions, please comment down below and I will actually make a video on the questions in the future. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed third eye reptiles today, and stay tuned for more videos. Bye!